It's no surprise to any of us, if we think about it, that there were many men in the Muslim community in Medina who wanted to marry Lady Fatima. She was, after all, the daughter of the Prophet. What higher dignity, what higher favor could be shown to any man than to marry the daughter of the Prophet herself? And so there were lots of men who came to the Prophet and asked if they might be considered as a future husband for Fatima. But he rejected them all. He said, "No, I'm sorry, it's not you." And it was as though the Prophet had a plan. Now remember that the Quran tells us that the Prophet does not speak out of his own will, but only by the will of God. So if we say the Prophet had a plan, that means God had a plan too, that it was God's plan that Fatima should marry Ali. This was, as it were, preordained, or we say they were married first in heaven, and then they were married on earth. So we need then to think about the importance of Lady Fatima in this regard. First of all, in Shia understanding, Fatima is born after the Prophet makes the Miraj. He makes his night journey into the very presence of God in the heavens. And it is on that occasion that he is taught the knowledge of many things that are known only to God and that are to be given him. We call this then the knowledge of the unseen. One of the things that happened on that occasion was that Muhammad was given fruits of paradise to eat. And this was a way of conveying to the Prophet that when he returned to the earth, he was to have a daughter, and this daughter was the Lady Fatima. So we know then that Fatima was conceived after the return of the Prophet from paradise. So it's as though from the very beginning she is destined for a very special role within God's plan for humankind. And we know, looking back, that she is, of course, destined to be not only the wife of Ali, but also the mother of the Ahl al-Bayt. And it is from that line of descent that we see that all the Imams, the leadership of the Muslim community, was ordained to come. Ali, as we know, was a man of modesty, a man of humility, a man who was discreet about his own life and his own affairs. So it is no surprise to us that it takes a little while for him to approach the Prophet and to consider asking the Prophet for the hand of Fatima in marriage. It indeed is a joint effort by Ali and the Prophet when he encourages Ali to step forward and to make the offer of marriage. And so it was, they were betrothed to each other, a marriage was to be arranged. What kind of a marriage was it to be? Again, as in everything that Ali does, he becomes a role model to the community, a role model to those who follow the way of Islam. Because we know, first of all, that it was a modest marriage. Now, this was the daughter of the Prophet who was marrying the closest brother of the Prophet in Ali. It wouldn't have been any surprise in other communities, in other societies, if this had been a big, lavish affair with all the pomp and circumstance that we could imagine. But no, that's not the way of Islam. The way that Ali and Fatima show us is a way of a modest marriage which is befitting for two followers who submit to the will of God. Secondly, we know that the dowry, the mahr, which was given by Ali to Fatima was modest. Again, this was the daughter of the Prophet. Surely she should receive great riches as a mahr when she marries. No, that's not the way of Islam. She was to receive a modest mahr from Ali as part of the marriage agreement. And the third thing that we see is that it's a community event. People are gathered together so that they can all celebrate this marriage together. And in this way, the marriage of Fatima and of Ali becomes a role model for the kind of marriage that Islam favors. Let's take the story on a little further, because Ali and Fatima are blessed with the birth of their two sons, Hassan and Hussein. And they then become that nuclear family which is to again pattern the way of life that Islam calls from its followers. So we have one little example to share. This was the example when Hassan and Hussein had been ill, and Fatima and Ali had made a pledge to God, a promise, a vow, that after the recovery of the two boys, they would fast for 3 days in thanksgiving. Sure enough, the two boys recover, and so they begin their 3 days of fasting. At the end of the first day of fasting, they are preparing food to break their fast when there is a visit from a beggar who is hungry and is looking for food. And they give the food with which they were about to break their fast to the beggar, so that the beggar may have the benefit of that food and the sustenance of his body. And they go to bed hungry. The next day is, of course, the second day of fasting. So they fast the whole day through, and then we're told that that night they are preparing the food to break their fast, and again there is a call, and the caller this time is an orphan, someone without parents to support him, someone who is therefore in serious need. And again, the food is given to the orphan so that he should benefit from that sustenance, and for a second night, they go to bed hungry. Now, the third day was also a day of fasting, and on this day also, as they are preparing to break their fast at the end of the day, there is another call upon them. And this is a call from a prisoner who has been released, and like so many prisoners right up to our own time, he has no food, and so he too benefits from the food with which the household of Fatima and Ali were about to break their fast. And in this way we can see that they become a living witness, a role model for the guidance of the Quran. And indeed, the scholars tell us that this was the occasion for the revelation from some verses from the 7th chapter of the Quran, which actually speaks about those whose virtue is such that they feed the beggar, the orphan, and the prisoner, even with that which they need so much in their own life. And so in a time when some have plenty and some are about to starve through having no food, we see again the lived example of Islam in the lives of Ali and Fatima.